Okay, let's take a look at, and this is projected, what the Canucks roster could very well look like come October and the start of the regular season. Now, you can argue this all you want. This is what we're going with in terms of our projected forward lines. Pettersson between Kuzmenko and Mikheyev, which we saw some of last year before Mikheyev got injured. And, those days when Kuzmenko wasn't a scratch or sitting on the bench.
Yeah, sitting on the bench.
Miller between Beauvillier and Besser. I put Beauvillier up there in the top 6, but remember near the end of the season, he wasn't a Rick Tocchet favorite.
No.
Rick.
His ice time dipped at the end.
Yeah, but we've got him there for now. Blueger, third line center. And I just talked about how much Rick Tocchet, well, it seemed like he wasn't a Anthony Beauvillier fan. He loves him some Phil DiGiuseppe.
Oh.
So we've got him on the third line, left wing. Garland on the right side, although Garland can play on the left side as well. And Garland's future somewhat up in the air. Rick, a man between Podkolzin, maybe that's a bit of a stretch to see Podkolzin there, and Joshua. And then the question marks at the bottom here. Tanner Pearson.
Well, Patrick
Calvin said at his press availability on Saturday that he expects Pearson to be at camp despite the hand issues. Documented hand issues. Sheldon Dries, Stadnicka, Höglander, we'll see, but that's what we're going with for now.
Some of these guys are going to end up in Abbotsford, Donnie. There's no.
Of course.
He loves DiGiuseppe because he plays a heavy game. That's what Rick Tocchet likes, so that's why he's in there, and he is going to start the season in Vancouver. There's no question.
And look, say what you want about the Canucks last year. I believe 13th in goals for per game. They can score. But they got to get. It's defense, in particular, penalty killing, that's going to make or break this team. And keep in mind that they didn't have Thatcher Demko for the whole year.
No.
So this helps, but having Demko healthy helps at least as much.
Yeah.
Okay.
And absolutely, Donnie. I just want to say something about Blueger. I don't think we realize how many teams were after him on Saturday. I heard a ton. And the Canucks, he appreciated the fact that Alvin, Rutherford, Tocchet, Gonchar went after him hard. And I'm going to tell you something else.
Pittsburgh connection, too.
Yeah, Pittsburgh connection. A lot of teams were surprised. Blueger picked Vancouver. I'll just leave it at that. But I'm going to tell you that affiliation with all these Pittsburgh guys, it helped in getting Blueger to Vancouver.
Okay, Rick, correct me if I'm wrong here, but everything I saw Saturday and Sunday, there was a lot of people who felt that having Rick Tocchet behind the bench convinced players like Teddy Blueger to sign with the Vancouver Canucks. They didn't have a good year, so there's opportunity there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's that familiarity. And same thing with Ian Cole. The familiarity with all these Pittsburgh guys got him to Vancouver. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it.
Okay, let's take a look, Derek, if you don't mind, at the defense and the goaltenders. Let's start at the bottom here. The goaltenders, no question here. Demko's your number one, and then you've got, would you call it a battle between Martin and Seelovs, or do we just assume that Seelovs, given what he did at the World Championships and somewhat of a breakthrough year last year, he's the guy that's going to get the backup role? Or would it serve him better as a young goaltender who's had some success to spend the whole year in Abbotsford?
When the Canucks went shopping for a goaltender Saturday, they didn't have the money to do a one-way. That's why Colin Delia is not back. That's why they got this Zach Sachenko.
Yep.
Ian Clark likes him. He's known him through his American Hockey League days. So they didn't have the money to do a one-way on a third goaltender, and they didn't want to do it. So they got him. It's going to be fascinating to see the backup goaltending situation because you don't want to ever see this. But what happens, Don? Ask yourself, if Demko's out 4 to 6 weeks, somebody's got to step up out of that group and provide very, very good minutes.
Yeah. And again, one of my keys to next season, this is very obvious. This isn't a great revelation, but Demko's health, I think Rick Tocchet's coaching and getting off to a good start, among other things.
You nailed it.
But things that they didn't have last year.
Yeah.
Okay, so defense.
Yes.
Hughes with Cole, and I'm giving Cole, and I'm going to get to this, about handedness in a second here. But Hughes with Cole on the right side, even though, and we're going to hear from Ian in a second.
Yep.
Hughes with Cole, lefty on the right side. He says he
He can
it's
play both
okay.
sides.
He can play both sides. I don't always like that. Soucy, same thing. He's a left-hander, but we're throwing him on the left side here with Veronica on that second pairing. And then the third pairing, Myers, what? His bonus is due in September.
15th.
We'll see what happens with him after that, okay? Yeah. But for now, he's a part of the organization, right side on the third pairing, and I've got Kita Hiroshi there, and people can argue this till the cows come home. Wolanin, AHL Defenseman of the Year, maybe he belongs in that third pairing left-handed spot. Brisebois, Irwin, McWard, Rathbone, maybe Ethan Bear, all in the mix. But I just when I watched Hiroshi play last year, and look, I know
very
it was
impressed.
mean-nothing games, and I know he's left-handed, not right-handed, but he just reminded me of Chris Tanev when he first broke it. Different situation. Tanev was under a lot more pressure. I mean, this was a 2011 playoff team we're talking about that made it to the Stanley Cup final. But I just thought he was so calm and cool, he did not look out of place at all.
And you don't got Juleson up there, but, I mean, keep an eye on Juleson as well, because Juleson is, I mean, just keep an eye on him. He was good down the stretch. Donnie, can I get this in about...
Well, can I say one more thing here?
Go.
Like, they also didn't sign Shan. They didn't sign Burrows. You mentioned Juleson. They're kind of back to where they were with and if they get rid of Myers, they're kind of back where they were. No righties here.
No righties.
Pardon me. There are righties here, but maybe not as many as they'd like.
Every team would like more. I just want to get this in about Cole and Soucy. It was fascinating how they both ended up in Vancouver. In fact, they're good friends. They played together in Minnesota. When they heard they were both connected to Vancouver, they reached out to each other and talked to each other about the possibility of playing in Vancouver, and they got excited. Cole did talk term with Vancouver. He talked 1, 2, and 3 years, but he took the 1 year and was okay with that. And with the salary cap going up, like I told you, a lot of players were okay with 1-year deals on the weekend, and Cole was one of them. But he did talk term. He's good friends with Soucy. The whole thing came together, I think, around on, it just came together over the weekend, and away we go. They're both here.
You know what? You mentioned Juleson there. And Thomas Drance talked about this a lot. That Hughes-Juleson pairing, it's not like they played the whole season, but it was somewhat effective last year.
It was.
If that could, I mean, it
was.
People might have a hard time thinking, Juleson, who, I think it's fair to say that his career hasn't worked out exactly as planned as a first-round draft pick of the Montreal Canadiens, but that would just make things so much better for the Canucks.
It would.
If that, and then everybody moves down a
Don't
notch.
rule him out, Donnie.
We'll see what happens with Myers. Okay. So anything else?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do want to get this in because this is going to be important with the salary cap going forward. Tucker Pullman is your LTIR candidate. He just can't get cleared by the doctors to play. He's been trying. Feel for the guy. He doesn't want to retire. He just can't get the clearance from the doctors to play. Donnie, he's been trying for months. It doesn't look good. So that would probably be your LTIR candidate going forward.